Something else people need to realize is that, especially since, the JFK files and MLK files have been released, what is very clear is that prior to JFK getting in, the CIA and FBI were not a problem. The very first person, as far as a leadership position, to start complaining or have issue with the CIA was JFK. And yet I said how the majority of the JFK files are on the Cold War. And it was very obvious to me the CIA was trying to keep communism out. See, the reason the whole South Americans going to Cuba to get training in guerrilla warfare, and it was in mass amounts, was even more of a concern for the CIA, is because they had been given leads by a couple of people that said that Hitler hadn't killed himself and that he fled to South America. So I think that's why that was even more concerning to them, because it was young people from South America that were flying into Cuba and getting trained in guerrilla warfare. So that's why with the biggest thing that JFK effed up, and I think he did it on purpose, was the Bay of Pigs. Right as he came in, again, it was already set in place. Eisenhower and CIA had it all set to go. JFK, just being as the president, had to give the order, go ahead, but he had to provide air support. He did everything to make that situation worse, which led to the Cuban Missile Crisis. Then you find out he idolized Hitler. He saw him as a legend. His dad was a Nazi sympathizer. Do you see how all this is connecting to the same problem? So then he does the Bay of Pigs, F's it up, and then immediately starts blaming the CIA. Then all these reports over the years start coming out. The CIA did this, the CIA did that. And after JFK, the CIA did a whole hell of a lot to the American people. But be careful what you believe with some of it. I mean, prior to JFK, because it seems to me, nobody really knew what they were doing, because they weren't really doing anything with American citizens. The reason they say they were attacking the American citizens prior to JFK is because, during JFK, is because, like the FBI, they had every reason to surveil MLK. In fact, I did see this guy, Vince Ellison. I'd never watched his show, but he was the only video I could find that had anything, because nobody's talking about, other than quick news reports, nobody's talking about the MLK files. And the thing is, that's why we have this problem today. It all goes back to that perfect storm with MLK, JFK, and even RFK, okay? That led to Obama. Because again, MLK and JFK supported bringing Kenya students here against the State Department's wishes. They brought them here. Kennedy Foundation paid for the first 2 flights, and Obama's dad was on the second flight. Then we get years later, we get in 2008, good old Barack. And Barack ended up going on to put a ton of people that were once communists, not only in his administration, but at the highest levels of the FBI. Brennan in 1976 was part of the Communist Party. Yes, John Brennan, who needs to go down because he was part of this whole thing they did to Trump. Comey had ties to it too. Yeah, or was Comey the head of the FBI? I forget. But anyway, I mean, both of them in high levels with the intelligence agencies. So of course, that's why the intelligence agencies became crap. So all of it from JFK, who ended up helping Barack's dad come into this country, then leading all the years later to good old Barack, and then Barack brings in these communists. And it wasn't just them. There were other people that he had at high levels that were all had ties to the Communist Party. Look, communists, it's like mental, they don't change their views. They don't suddenly go from, I'm a communist today. I mean, it's not unless it's a pretty quick change. They usually just become more radicalized. He appointed individuals described as red diaper babies, children of communist or socialist parents, and Maoist to certain administration positions, but specific names are like John Brennan, James Comey. Who else? There was a couple other in here. I forget the other guy's name, but I think I have it. Davis, I have part of it cut off. He was a known member of the Communist Party, USA, and considered a mentor figure for Obama in his youth, though never an appointee, is often cited for influence. Then you see Mike Klonsky, a Maoist and leader of the U.S. Marxist Leninist group, was connected to progressive education initiatives Obama supported. Most people know Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dorn from the Weather Underground. These were all the people Obama was tied to. Then people at the highest levels of especially intelligence agencies were tied to the Communist Party at one point. So the problem we're dealing with today has been this perfect storm that started with MLK, JFK, RFK, and then through the years has gotten worse, and America's gotten worse because these communists have infiltrated everywhere, and many of them claim to be progressives.